Alright, I'd like to show you how to attach the manipulator arm accessory to the bottom of the Video Array Pro 4 ROV submersible. Uh, this is the Video Array manipulator arm. Very simple and basic function manipulator. Single access, opens and closes. Extremely useful and one of our most popular accessories for the Video Array Pro 4. Extremely useful for picking up small objects on the bottom, running down attach lines, grabbing onto things, getting your tether unstuck, so on and so forth. So extremely popular, and we're going to show you how to mount it to the bottom of the Pro 4. There's a couple pieces of hardware that we have here, but just going to make sure we put them on right, and then we have everything hooked up before we go take a dive with it. So if you order the manipulator, you're going to get a set of these manipulator clamps here, basically two clamshell pieces that we stagger on the bottom of the pre-threaded and pre-drilled holes on the bottom of the Pro 4 ballast skid. So if you see here, the two halves of these, one's flat and one's curved. So the flat piece is going to go flush against the bottom of the skid here, and the curved piece, once you put the manip in, will go on top and fit around the manipulator tube there. So first we're going to put on, so turn the vehicle upside down. It sits really nice on its float block on a flat surface, so it's a great way to start putting your manip on. And I want to take the two flat pieces first. These two flat bottom pieces here. Alright, I'm going to put the front one on first to get it situated. Now you'll notice how the holes are drilled inside here. And if I can get it close enough so you can see it, there's two holes that the screws go to the bottom of the skid, and then there's two holes that grab the clamshell from the top. Now you can also see this little line here. It's a little ridge, and that's important in how we install the front piece. So when we install the front, we're going to look at the first two holes that are drilled in the threads here towards the front, or drilled in the skid there towards the front to mount our first clamp. So I'm going to take that flat bottom piece, and I want those holes to point towards the rear of the sub, the furthest back on it. So I have that little ridge that's going to catch the manipulator as I slide it in from the front. Okay, so I'll put these in using the smaller of the 8 screws. So there's 8 screws total with your hardware here. There's 4 slightly smaller ones and 4 slightly longer ones. The longer ones are going to use to clamp it together. The smaller ones we're going to put into in the base of the skid, and we're just going to use our standard Phillips head that's shipped with the basic toolkit. So, and I'll try to get close up as we get this in. All right, so I'm going to get my 2 screws in there lined up, line it up with the threads, and it'll make your world much easier if you get a power screwdriver for your video array accessories, taking stuff on and off the skid. Makes your life a whole lot easier, but it is easier to strip screws and stuff, so you have to make sure that your settings are correct on the power screwdriver, because you don't want to cross thread anything or strip any of the screws. So alright, same deal on the back. This one we're just going to pick 2 of the holes towards the back here. It doesn't really matter which ones you're going into. I do want to note out one thing. If for some reason you have to remove your skid and you're changing skids, and we'll show you how to do that in another video, but this wire that's screwed into the back is what we call a strain relief. It takes off the strain from the connection of the tether from the sub to your the main tether that you're using. So you want to make sure that that's on first before you go putting your clamps on in your manipulator, because if you put it on and you notice that this is hanging off, you got to take everything apart. So make sure that your strain relief is screwed down to your skid. So again, just pick 2 holes back here. It doesn't really matter which ones. Stay consistent, keep the holes towards the back. Just gonna pick these front ones here. And like everything else on the sub, you don't want to crank down I'm so hard on it. You just get it nice and snug. Now, if you're a real hardcore video array user and you're using this to pick up, heavy stuff on the bottom, obviously the sub itself isn't powerful enough to pick up very heavy objects, but what we can do is grab onto things with the manipulator arm and use our tether to pull the vehicle up. And we've done this successfully with drowning victims numerous times and other heavier items. If that's the case, you may want to reinforce this. If that's what the kind of stuff that you're doing, that's really advanced stuff, and if you haven't had proper training or experience with it, would not recommend doing it, but you may want to reinforce this with zip ties or something like that. So, okay, once we have our two bottom halves of our clamp on the skid, we're just going to line up our manipulator arm. Now remember that ridge in the front there? We're just going to slide this in until it catches that, and you'll be able to feel it. Alright, so we know now we have it in the proper area, and it's also going to give us a good view from the camera of the manipulator jaws. So take our second half of the clamp, we're going to put that on top. Now you'll notice right away that the clamp isn't going to be flush against the bottom. The top clamp isn't flush against the bottom of the clamp. So that means we're going to have to take some care when we're screwing it in. So two of the longer screws here, one on each side, and just line those holes up. And we're just going to alternate very gently. Make sure we got the thread there. We're going to alternate sides screwing this in, and until they're equal pressure on both sides. If you go and just crank down one side and while the other is still over here caught, it's going to snap right through the plastic. So just very gently make sure your arm is straight in there, nice and level, and gently nip those down until you have a nice you shouldn't be able to twist it very easily with your hand here. So, and then just repeat on the back. And this would, if you had a power screwdriver here, you'd have to be very careful not to just throttle through that and snap the plastic on the clamp. So just alternate. Okay. Alright, so that's nice and solid on there now. You can tell I can't twist it at all very easily, so you know you have a good hold on it there. Alright, last thing we're going to do installing the manipulator is plug in the 9-pin accessory plug here to the accessory port in the back. So I'm going to flip the sub over. Okay. Back up. Okay. So at this point we're going to have to remove the float block. It's the simple thumb screw. Make sure that you don't drop the washer underneath it. See, it comes with a washer. If you drop that, you're not. If you're on a dock or something, there is a spare in your toolkit, but just take caution that you don't drop that. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is remove the dummy plug. If you haven't seen the dummy plug video yet, extremely important piece on the submersible here. What it's doing is it's sealing the accessory port from any water ingress into the pressure hull here, from shorting any electronics. So we're going to remove the 9-pin dummy plug and replace it with the manipulator whip. It can only go in one way. So, alright, so the manip's in. Make sure you put this in a safe spot. I'd put it back in your tool bag so you don't lose it, because if you have to run it with the manipulator off or without an accessory in the future, that immediately needs to go back in. Can't stress that enough. And then we're just going to put our float back on and connect the tether, power it up, and then you're going to check the functionality of your manipulator. So, this is how it should look close up, and it should be square to the front. And when you tilt that camera all the way down, you'll see that grabber arm, and you always want to fly with it open like this so you can see through it until you grab something on the bottom. So that is the manipulator arm installation.